battle buddies forever. Salt on our lips and the wind in our teeth. Ship full of misfits, laughing over the deep. Spears in our hands, but we joke like kids. If this is doom, then I'm glad we live. We are battle buddies forever. From Troy's red walls to the wild, wild sea. Tie me down. I'll tear every tether. I will fight the storm if you sail with me. Yeah, we bleed, we break, but we never say never. Odyssey, us and the crew. Battle
Okay, we out here.
Kevin Parker's locked in. I walked through the house and I could sense it. I walked through and I saw, man, this dude's ready to go. He's been thinking about this all night.
I have been.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Battle Buddies.
Battle buddies forever.
We're a military history podcast. We try to make pretty intense and deep things, not so intense and deep, even when it's like unavoidable. Somehow we still try to make some laughs out of it. Like Michael Wazowski said in Monsters University, at least we had some laughs along the way.
What a deep Monsters University cut.
Thank you. Yeah, dude.
For all of our diehard Monster University
You never
fans.
know what sticks, dude, around there. You know what I mean?
That's true.
I'm an auditory learner, and every once in a while I watch a movie and I'm like, keeping that one in the bank.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, welcome. It's been a while, dude, since you have been the captain of our series. I think the last time you did a series was Vikings.
Yes.
And also the Iliad.
The Iliad.
I
Yep.
imagine if you have not listened to that, you might want to pause and go listen to that before you listen to this.
Yes, that is our disclaimer. We are covering the Odyssey today. I mean, over the next couple days. But you should listen to at least the first half of the first episode of the Iliad, because we go over a lot of the nuts and bolts of it. And I'm not going to assume you know all of the Iliad, because I have to reread my notes on it all the time. But I am assuming you're not new to that conversation we've had about who is the author and when were they writing kind of thing. Because we're going to kind of jump straight into that shit.
It's also the Iliad series is really good.
I enjoyed it. I was just so pleasantly surprised by how beautiful the Iliad was. I'm going to reread it. I don't know if I'll reread the Odyssey in its entirety. I was thinking about this. But I will read the Iliad in its entirety.
Interesting.
Yes. I'll reread sections of the Odyssey. Parts of the Odyssey are awesome, and parts of it are fun to have read, but you don't necessarily need to reread the whole section again.
Homer nods?
Yeah, Homer nods.
Homer nods.
It's different.
You remember
nodding.
that?
Oh, yeah, I remember Homer nods.
Yeah.
Peter Green. Shout out to Peter Green, our late boy.
Yeah, so I'm excited, dude. Oh, also, kind of not really mentioning the huge elephant in the room here that we are as we record this over the summer. Christopher Nolan is dropping the Odyssey. His rendition of the Odyssey.
Yes.
But your boys got to it first,
We
so
did.
you can go into the movie and be like, I actually know what's going to happen.
A lot more color in our story than in the Nolan version. A
Oh, yeah.
lot of critiques on the costume designs.
Yeah, everyone's going tripping, dude. Someone was like, this is what Agamemnon's helmet should really look like. I'm like, friends, this is, we're arguing over like myths, correct?
Correct. And okay,
We'll address that at some point.
we're
My
gonna go
bad.
right into it right now because it's one of the conversations from the Iliad that we were
It
having.
was just important that I it would just be, what's the word I'm looking for? I just feel like it would be fake of me not to mention the Christopher Nolan thing.
yeah, the reason why we're doing this.
Yeah.
shout out to Christopher Nolan.
The entire reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so today we're going to kind of do like an intro. Not kind of like an intro. We're going to do an intro, and then we're going to cover books 1 and book 2 of the story, which will set a good foundation for the wackiness, which is the Odyssey. Now, I read, same as the Iliad, 2 translations of it. I did the standard one, the audiobook one first, to hear it, because these are stories that are meant to be listened
That's a
to.
really good point.
Highly recommend it. It's way more readable which is odd to say, but it's meant to be read. You're meant to hear it. Less the Odyssey than the Iliad, but still the Odyssey. And then I read Peter Green's translation, who is the translation I read for the Iliad.
And that's your boy, right?
I really, really love Peter Green. I like him. I like his analysis. He's a historian, for those that don't know, besides this translation stuff that he started doing it when he was like 89 or something like that. He was hella old when he decided to start translating Greek stuff. His history books, they are very long. They are incredible. They are too long. I was thinking about this yesterday. If he is reincarnated, like if reincarnation exists, that would be great for the world. And if his reincarnation just had like a little bit more brevity when he writes about history.
Condensed, dude.
Yeah.
Just condensed.
But his takes are really good because he is very good about saying, here's all the stuff that I know. Here's kind of what the arguments are. Here's where I am. This is what I believe. Or I actually don't know what I believe still. Like he's very good about that. And
That's
I
honesty.
like that. Not all of the historians that you read right now are doing that, where they're more trying to balance all of the pros and cons and which side. But Peter Green still has enough of that old school kind of like Will Durant-y thing where he's just like, nah, here's what's happening.
Okay.
Which I like. I need that for my historians because I'm not a historian.
But you also said that he's okay with being like, I don't know.
No, absolutely. That's why I trust his opinions more.
I appreciate honesty.
Yes. And over time, reading his stuff, it helps you build confidence in what he says because you know that he doesn't say it unless he actually does believe it. He feels no reason to lie to you and appear more confident than he is.
See, that kind of comes through in some of the Herodotus stuff too, though.
Absolutely.
You're like, oh, I feel truth here. You know?
I feel like we send each other a Herodotus article every 6 months about how, turns out Herodotus was
Yes.
right about
Yes,
this
yes,
other
yes.
thing.
Yeah.
Which is great.
I get down on Herodotus monthly. Love Herodotus.
Okay. The Odyssey.
Let's get it.
It's quite the Odyssey.
What does that word even mean, dog? Oh, it just comes from Odysseus, huh?
Yeah. Okay, so we read the Iliad. These are from the author, we think, Homer.
Dope.
Again, check out our Iliad series because there's a lot of argumentation about, is it Homer? Is it not Homer? For the Odyssey, somebody did write it down. It's not as old of a story as the Iliad, which is the first hurdle that we need to get through.
Whoa. Can we
Yeah.
be kind, rewind. Do we know what the gap is between when the Iliad was written and when the Odyssey was written?
According to Peter Green, he thinks it's about, based on the way that they measured it is basically like cultural linguistics. Is very interesting. So they think it's about 50 years, which is a long time, which is adding fuel to the fire of, is Homer one author or not? Because 50 years is a long time.
Okay, follow-up question.
Yeah.
How much time does the story take place in between each other, the Iliad and the Odyssey? Is it 50 years as well?
No, it's 10 to 20 years.
Okay.
It's a 10-year story that takes place 10 years after
Okay.
the Iliad. It also takes place during the Iliad. Time is a very Christopher Nolan-based story, as we'll discover.
Because time is all over the place?
All over the place.
Oh, interesting. That's been a theme here at Battle
yes.
Buddies.
Well, actually, your story, your series on Slaughterhouse 5 helped me feel more confident with doing nonlinear storytelling, because we're going to be doing a bunch of nonlinear storytelling.
Hell yeah.
So I want to set a better historical context than I did for the Iliad. I think we did a good job of going through it like as a historian, but I want this one to be focused more on us as laymen, as not historians. If we look at it as a timeline, we have what we think is the Trojan War. Okay? The Trojan War may or may not have happened, but this would be the events of the Iliad. And we agreed last time that our best take is there probably was some conflict that was big, and then it turned into a big story, something like that.
Right.
Then the Bronze Age collapse happened around 1200. And for the sake of simplicity, we can just say that's when the Trojan War thing happened, because who knows what the timeline actually looks like. It will be always impossible to tell unless we get a new document. Homer, quote unquote Homer, the author of this story, doesn't write this stuff down until around 700 BCE, which is 500 years. The reason why I bring up the 500 years is I want you to know how much distance there is. So when people say, that's not the helmet that Menelaus and Agamemnon would wear, are you talking about Homer's Greek? Or are you talking about pre-Bronze Age collapse armor?
Fascinating. Okay.
Like, so is it Homer's take on that armor, or is it that actual armor based on archaeological studies?
Right.
Those are two different things. And if you're like, oh, this is like the same thing, this would be like me writing a story on how Cortez led to the fall of the Aztec Empire, because that was 500 years ago. So it's very different me writing a modern story about the fall of the Aztec Empire than it is looking at contemporary archaeological finds of Cortez and the Aztec Empire collapse.
Because you also weren't there.
I wasn't there. And if the only story I had was told to me by campfire growing up,
Sure.
my facts might be different. And
for sure.
So I just bring that up in terms of when people are arguing about particulars and then they don't state whether they're talking about Homer, the author, or the time period the story supposedly takes place in. That right there should invalidate not all of the argument, but it should give you a bigger grain of salt to go with it.
Okay, let me explain something here, listeners. For those who are like, why is this important? If you do a simple thing right now, if you pause this and go on YouTube and type in the Christopher Nolan Odyssey preview on YouTube, Kevin is talking about all the comments that are in there about...
I'm in a lot of ancient forms, ancient armor forms.
There's a lot of nerds that are just like hating on this movie already. They haven't seen it and they're just like, wrong. And so Kevin is kind of answering that debate that's big online right now, is it not?
Is huge. And I'm not necessarily even against it. I'm just saying that people are, through the purpose of like historical accuracy, are oversimplifying because they haven't done the reading either. And so it's, I don't know, maybe we're being too harsh on it. I do agree that like I don't know, what is it, 17th century stuff, probably even 18th century, there was a lot more color in Europe for men. Like men did like a lot of colors. Like that was a thing. And so I saw even Timothy Chalamet Ding Dong's King, which I remember watching in like 2020 or 2019, and I really liked his performance, and I actually thought he did a good job.
I need to watch that.
But it's the same thing as Nolan. It's very dark colors the whole time. And you're like,
toned down.
Isn't this royalty Henry V stuff? Like
even when you listen to the music during that time.
And so I do agree with that. But it becomes hard. Those are storytelling devices. You know, what does your audience want versus how accurate do you need to be? It is grittier when you mute the colors, but I do like the colors too. I don't know. I go back and forth.
Do you remember, like in the early 2000s, when Michael Bay was doing, they just always had that one shade on all of their Transformers movies, all of the Gone in 60 Seconds. It was just everything. It always seemed like it was very hot outside. Yeah, that's the filter that they had on was very.
It's like the lens flare thing.
And it's like
like there's like a blue orange complementary color thing.
It always makes me thirsty. Like it feels like it's hot now. Everyone's sweating.
Michael Bay always makes his people sweat.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Everything's very bright and vivid in his movies.
High levels of contrast going on there.
Yeah, unlike your Christopher Nolan toned down.
But maybe it'll work. I trust Nolan enough. I'll try it out.
I'll watch it. If that dude's name is on a movie poster, I'm watching it.
The main thing for this, going away from the costumes, is that ancient history, like we imagine it, also had and was aware of their ancient history. And that's a point that I like to remind myself constantly. Because we condense ancient history into one lump, but we're talking about hundreds of years. And it's just amazing that they knew about people ancient to them because they weren't writing things down for a lot of this time. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, there's a line in the new Wicked for Good movie where Oz says to one of the characters, we used to talk about made-up stories all the time growing up, and we called it history.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, it's a good line.
And I just wanted to shout out to an actual retelling of Cortez and the Fall of the Aztec Empire, which is The Fountain.
Great fucking movie.
Darren Aronofsky, one of his best, I think.
Great fucking movie.
Great retelling.
Yeah, if
in a
you have
modern
not
lens.
watched The Fountain and you're like, oh, I'm going to watch that because I just heard that, you might want to be like 2 fingers deep in like a scotch
Sure.
or something.
Anything.
Yeah.
Even so, I just
You're,
like that movie.
You're going to go on a journey.
You do go on a journey.
Yeah, dude.
You have to watch it twice because the first time you're like, what? What's happening? The tree? Okay. The Odyssey, unlike the Iliad takes place in Troy the whole time. It takes place on the beaches of Troy and then the gates of Troy. And then there's a river that forks. Other than that, there's no real settings, right? That's just very easy to do. Brad Pitt does a great job moving along that beach until he gets to the gates. The Odyssey is very different. The Odyssey is going to go all over this gosh darn world of ours. And this is going to make it more challenging.
Yeah.
A lot more challenging.
I'm looking. So, listeners, if you're not watching, I'm looking at this map right here. It says Odysseus' 10-year journey home. And we have a bird's eye view of, your good old fashioned like arrows pointing around. And it is chaotic.
Yes. If you want to copy this is from the World History Encyclopedia.
Yeah,
it's
worldhistory.org.
This is one of the possible. It's one of the possible routes that he took.
This is cool.
We don't know all of the places exactly because some are mythological and some there's issues with translations and terms and, just normal storytelling devices of how long things take. And so the fact that we know as much as we do is kind of awesome. But, we're going over Europe, we're going over the Mediterranean, we're going over Asia Minor. We're all over the place and it's pretty fun. Now it says 10-year round trip. We'll come back to that. The timing, because the timing does become a big issue. The way that I want to cover this story, that I want to get ahead of, because it gets complicated quick, but I think the payoff is almost immediate, and so it makes it worth it, which is I want to tell the story in 2 ways. The way that you read the story is through like plot devices, right? Like a normal plot diagram. It goes beginning, middle, end of a book. I am going to guess that Nolan is going to tell it more or less chronologically, which is very different. And most of the times when you learn the story, you learn it chronologically. That map we just saw was a chronological map. And then I have issues with both takes because if you just focus on the narrative structure of it, you miss some really like modern things that we take away from the story because of the hero's journey, because of Joseph Campbell and all these people that studied it later. And then if you just study it chronologically, you miss the whole beauty of the storytelling, which is a big part of it. So we're going to do both at the same time. We're going to look at it chronologically, like where they are chronologically, and look at the narrative at the same time, which means it's going to get wacky, but that's a lot of fun.
I think that a cool way to perhaps look at what you're saying and to keep it in the realm of Christopher Nolan. Did you see Memento?
Of course I've seen Memento.
Okay.
It was my first one.
But did you hear, this might be like some weird urban legend stuff, but did you hear that they released a DVD where they edited it where it was just normal chronological?
Yes.
Did you watch that?
My brother started to watch it, and I think we both gave up on it.
So that's kind of my point.
Yeah.
Is like when I heard that, I was like, I have no need to do that because it was such a unique thing that would take away from the storytelling of the movie.
Yes,
and I think that's kind of what you're.
That is what I'm getting at.
But we're gonna do Por qué no los dos. We're gonna do both.
We're gonna do both. We're going through the story through the narrative, but each time we go through a narrative moment, I'm going to show you chronologically where we are too.
I understand,
and that will help us get both. We'll get both worlds, and then you could chop this up and listen to it in chronological order too, because you'll know what they are.
We'll have AI do that.
Yeah. No. But I will say nobody's really doing it like this, which is cool. Like nobody's trying to balance both at the same time. At least that I could find. I searched pretty hard for it.
You and I have we usually do a good job making our own little battle buddy
Make our
spin
own
on
thing.
things.
Yeah. Okay, other things that seem important before we get into more of the nitty-gritty stuff. Nothing. Let's just get into it. This is more fun.
The Odyssey.
Okay. The two, since we're going over in 2 layers, we're going to pretend this is an English classroom for a minute.
I love it.
Okay, so on the left of your screen, if you're looking, this, and you don't have to look, I'll explain it. One map that we're going to follow of storytelling is called The Hero's Journey. We went over the hero's journey in our Viking series briefly. We'll be going over it in much more detail with this story. So Joseph Campbell, when he wrote the Hero of a Thousand Faces, which is about like the monomyth that there's universal qualities of being a person, of becoming a hero. He uses the Odyssey quite a bit for that, and we
This
can
is where
track it.
character archetypes comes from as well.
So this is where the word archetype that Jung will then take, which we talked about, and we did that
Vikings.
Jungian thing, yeah. And so there's 12 steps. There's a lot more and a lot less, depending on how you look at it. There's all these, specific things. In general, there's 3 moments of the hero's journey. There's the departure, there's initiation, so your trials, and then there's your return. And that's how
Right.
you become a hero, right? You have to go out to become a hero. Like
Yeah.
Spencer went out, became a soldier.
How dare you,
Marine.
Marine?
Well, you're not gonna like
I
the
am
next one.
indoctrinated.
So yeah, you're a Marine, masturbating in porta potties while Pace the Day is playing. I will fight this war forever or until I die.
It's true. it's accurate.
And then you
information.
come back, master of both worlds.
Masturbating of both worlds.
So that's the hero's journey. We'll
I
go
mean,
over,
dude, the hero's journey is such a common thing to connect to, right? It's your
Yes.
classic Star Wars. Luke has
It
to
is.
leave home,
Yes.
right? But you had to go through all these trials and tribulations. It's such a, not only is it something that is common in stories, I feel like it's just everyone's life.
Well, that's what it's supposed to be. George Lucas loved Joseph Campbell, and so he was obsessed with following the hero's journey. But Joseph Campbell, if you read his actual book, which I recommend, is way better than I thought it was.
Wait,
Like
what's it
actually
called?
reading
What book are you
The
speaking
Hero with a Thousand Faces.
of? Okay.
I had been teaching, you teach versions of it all the time in English. And then a couple years ago, probably during COVID when I was bored, I was like, I'm actually just going to read it and see for myself if I like it. And I was like, this is beautiful.
Nerd.
Yeah. So we'll go over the steps as we go through it. But it's not super important that you know all the steps ahead of time. The other image, the one on the right, is a traditional plot diagram. Like the hero's journey, we think of plot diagrams as 3 steps, a beginning, a middle, and end. And then we talked about this with the Slaughterhouse series, that we like to map stories as this nice triangle-looking shape where you start flat. As a conflict emerges, you rise tension, and then you resolve your tension in a climax, and then eventually the story's over. And we said,
It's a parabola, right?
yes.
You're in trouble. You're out of trouble.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Vonnegut says you need to have a bunch of those rather than just one in a story, because that's how life is. And I kind of agree with the Odyssey, ironically, even though they use that to teach both of these. The Odyssey works best almost as that, or a series of circles. Yes.
Like an Inception thing.
Like an
going on.
Inception thing. Again,
Back to Christopher Nolan.
it's seriously, we're going to do a lot of Nolan-y things. Because look, I do recommend you look at this image.
Whoa.
This was
okay.
one I found, and this was a good way to show you how wacky the timeline is of the story. This is just a timeline of Odysseus in chronological order and Telemachus' son in chronological order, and then it mapped it with the squiggly lines
Yeah.
of the narrative structure, which
Uh-huh.
is all over the place.
place.
But that makes it really fun.
This is very Vonnegut.
It's very Vonnegut and very Nolan. When Nolan
Mhm.
talks about how you should have time flashbacks and they should meet in the middle, like that kind of stuff is definitely happening here. So
Awesome.
we'll be going through a lot of this kind of stuff.
Fascinating.
This is just more of that. I tried to have, because I was using AI to help me search for anybody trying to do both, and
Oh,
it
interesting.
couldn't. So then I had it create me how you could look at both. Basically, you just look at the hero's journey and then the narrative version of the hero's journey, and I kind of went from there. So 2 journeys in 1 epic.
Dang, that's cool when AI is like, I actually don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, it tried to give me classic AI. I was like, here's 3 articles that use that, and I read the articles and I typed in, it's like, they do not do that. And it
So,
said,
dude,
sorry.
Shout, good for you, dude.
Yeah.
You do need to point out to AI when it's wrong, folks.
Yes,
just
it was
so we're
very
clear. When they're wrong, let them know.
Okay, so we'll come back to that as we get into the story, but just know that we are balancing multiple,
I'm
like,
on board.
templates.
I got you.
The theme that we need to remember from the Iliad is Xenia. This is Xenia. We called important a few times in the Iliad. Xenia is how you treat a guest that arrives at your door, and as the guest, how you treat your host in the host's house. And that's very important in Greek society at this time. We talked about all the reasons why life was harder. People are just going to need to be able to rely on each other more sometimes. And so there's this
Still exists in Afghanistan today.
I bet.
It's called Malmastia.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's what the Navy SEAL used in Lone Survivor. When he gets captured, he claimed Malmastia, which means like, if I surrender, I'm just asking for help, and you have to help me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But but it goes off of what you're saying
absolutely.
is like that they live in the Stone Age, dude. I mean, I don't know anymore. This is what I'm speaking off of when we were the global war on terror, blah blah blah. But yeah, same. And I believe I used that example when you brought it up last time. Yeah.
Crazy. Okay. And in the Odyssey, Xenia is at the front of the story, and then it remains at the front of the story for the whole time. It's kind of what you bounce the hero journey off of as you go forward, because at times Odysseus will not follow Xenia and be punished for it, and at times other characters don't follow Xenia and then they are punished for it. So it becomes this.
I kind of appreciate that. I think that's a perfect lesson for human beings to understand. Is we're walking on this earth together, right?
Yes,
you gotta
absolutely.
My wife and I call it sharing the path.
Yeah, sure.
Like when you're a hiking dude and you see those people that like look down, and they don't talk to you, and then you see that people like, "Hey, good morning.
Yeah.
Hey, have a good day." You have no idea who you are, but we're sharing the path.
Right.
That's Xenia to me.
Sure, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And if you don't have Xenia in mind, then you focus on Odysseus's ego and his overconfidence, which I think is also there, but I think it's a byproduct of his Xenia rather than character flaws that you're supposed to highlight, which we'll talk about as we get to it, especially with like the Cyclops.
Interesting.
Okay. The last kind of housekeeping thing for looking at the story is I want us to look at the whole family as the protagonist, as the hero, because it makes it more fun as we apply it. So Odysseus is married to Penelope. We talked about her very briefly with the Iliad. I said that I really liked her after reading a couple of those modern retellings. And they have a son, Telemachus. So those three people, especially...
Dope name, by the way.
Telemachus is awesome.
Yeah,
name.
Telemachus. Let's go.
Shout out to Bluey for always, whenever they're playing make-believe, one of them's always Telemachus.
Oh, really?
Yeah, or like a lot in the beginning
It's
ones.
Weird how people who write television shows are well-read.
Yeah. And I had to put her in, even though she's not technically in the family, but Athena is the god in this story. Unlike the Iliad where it's the whole pantheon and they all share and stuff, this one is
god.
It's Odysseus's god.
Is it? But it's not. It wouldn't be a. What do you call that when you only have one god?
No, it's not monotheistic.
Yeah, there's no way, right?
No. The other gods are there. It's just Athena actually matters in the whole story.
Fair enough, and that's an important distinction to make because in these stories, like, there's a god of everything, and sometimes it gets crazy.
It does. And Peter Green, I think if he had a critique of the Odyssey, if I read him correctly and his essays on this correctly, it's sometimes that the Odyssey overuses Athena in her like divine interventions, which is fair.
It's cheap, is what he's saying.
Yeah, and it's
like escape. It's a cheap way out as a writer, as a storyteller. You're like, it was me.
That's kind of what I think his take was.
It was Stranger Things season 5.
Yeah, and what he says, he traces it all to one moment of the Iliad, which we read and talked about, where Achilles was about to go on a killing spree, and Athena calms him down and kind of makes him put a sword back in. And we talk about it like, oh, it's crazy. It's like, what an interesting moment, because it only happens once where the gods actually really interact with the mortals. And then Peter Green's belief is that the author of the Odyssey took that moment and then expanded on it, like repeated it.
Okay. That's crazy how much people have studied this shit, dude.
Oh, yeah. Peter Green, the end of his introduction in one of his essays was just try to read the book, fall in love with it. If you want more, you can read what book did he say? He said you could read Daniel Mendelssohn's An Odyssey, A Father, a Son, and an Epic. If you keep reading and you want to start learning Greek so you can translate it yourself, your life will be better for it. That's what he said. That's how he ended it. And this is the dude at like the end of his life.
I could feel. I
love that.
I feel that, bro.
I was like, I got chills reading that. Like,
I feel that getting lost in something like that.
Yes.
Being like, I'm a better person for this, dude.
That's what he was.
It's about Xenia. It's about
He's like 90 years old writing this essay, and like, my life has been dope. That's basically what I heard from it.
For sure.
Lifted that from the page. It's like,
he's crushing it.
My
dude.
life has been very cool, and I'm a great person because of this.
If you had a grandfather who was I'm learning Greek, so you'd be like, dude, good for you, bro. My friends won't believe this story.
Because as just another reason to like Peter Green and praise him for another minute is he says, don't read too many essays on this. Just go read it and enjoy it.
Yeah,
enjoy the
consume
story
it and have your take on it, which is also a really cool. That shows that he truly loves it.
He's
not like
stories
only my version.
Yes.
He's like, read the first. Yeah, that's dope. Yeah. That makes me appreciate him.
So you could listen to this series the same way I recommended the Iliad, where you either watch the episode and then listen to it on Spotify, because there's a bunch of free versions of it on Spotify.
Okay.
But I would your life will not be worse from listening to this story, especially if you're scared about it. Listen to our episodes first and then listen to it. You'll get a way better understanding of what's happening.
That's what I will be doing.
It's what I do with my students all the time when we read complicated shit. Is I throw up like 3 slides, I explain the most complicated parts, and then they read it, and then they understand it way better because I spoil things which they don't like, but at least now they can.
You know what you're looking for.
They know what they're looking for, and it's way easier to grab onto the little parts. Like we've been reading Range, and it helps with Range so much because Range can get pretty complicated.
Well, you guys are reading Range?
Yeah.
Whoa.
My avid kids are.
That's crazy.
It's really hard.
I wish I read that in the 8th grade. That's crazy.
Some really like it, and some are very mad at me.
All right.
And I like that.
Shout out to books, guys.
Okay. Book 1. We can start with how, all these epics start with invoking muses. The Iliad actually invoked a goddess, but we are going to invoke a muse for the Odyssey. Just another slight difference. The man muse, tell me about that resourceful man who wandered far and wide when he'd sack Troy's sacred citadel.
Bye-bye, Troy!
Bye-bye, Troy, indeed. This story is taking place 10 years after the events of the Iliad, or after the fall of Troy. But it's actually taking place right now, 20 years. So it's taking place 10 years after that. It gets complicated. Odysseus, we learn, is stuck on an island with a goddess named Calypso, who, because he's Odysseus, she just loves him. She wants him to just live there, so she won't let him leave. And, he's doing fine. He cries sometimes because he misses his wife, but he's sleeping with a goddess every night. And
what do you mean?
Yeah, he's
getting down?
Yes, of course he is. This is a thing that you can talk about. There's complicated parts, especially with the Circe one too.
Now hold on. When Kevin's reading this, what does Odysseus look like to you? What does the battle buddies Odysseus look like? Is it Matt Damon?
No, it's Sean Bean.
It's Sean Bean?
Because in Troy, that's who it is.
Okay, so you like that? That's who you like?
I like it because Sean Bean's voice works really well for
falling asleep.
A kind of know-it-all, confident guy. He does that really well in Troy. If you remember Brad Pitt, especially when Brad Pitt and Patroclus are sparring in the beginning, and he's like, "You have your swords and I have my tricks." I'm like, yeah, that's kind of Odysseus right there. I kind of like that. I like that.
Okay,
kind of.
So that's who Kevin. That's when you're reading Odysseus. You see Sean Bean.
Sean Bean, like a mix of Sean Bean and Eric Bana together.
Oh.
Because Eric Bana has the curlier, he has like that look, the Greek look, even though he's Trojan in that one. Well, I mean, in the story, he's Trojan, but he looks the part.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, all right.
That's what I see anyway.
Fair enough.
Tell me who you see. Comment on it.
Yeah, tell us. Who's Odysseus?
Now, Calypso, she wants him to stay. She even is kind of a cool, people get mad at Odysseus for always sleeping with these goddesses, but she offers him immortality.
It's hard to pass.
And
hard
he
to pass up on the
says,
immortality.
Nope, I want to get back to my wife and kid. Yeah.
Word.
Yeah. Well,
Good
cool.
for him.
That's what I'm saying.
Real classy move.
It is a
this
classy
Odysseus.
move. Classy move. Now, back on his island of Ithaca, Telemachus and Penelope are struggling, especially over the last 3-ish years. I was trying to nail down this timeline. It gets wacky, like I said. But for the last, we can confidently say at least the last 3 years, it's been really rough at home.
Okay.
Because if we reverse 3 years, it's 17 years since anybody has seen Odysseus. We've known he's been alive for 10 of those years because of what we had kind of figured out last time, that there had to have been some kind of boats going back and forth for supply lines and stuff like communication. But we don't think they let the generals or the soldiers leave, because then how would you ever get them back?
Right.
But
couriers, that's like
there had to have been
rules.
something.
There's
There
rules.
has to be stuff. So 7 years at least, nobody's seen Odysseus. He is, the king of his island of Ithaca, and the suitors, the other noblemen, are starting to fight for his spot, and they want to marry Penelope so that they can become the king of Ithaca.
But why would they need to fight for that if he's kind of just giving it up?
Well, he's not giving up. So it's still his island, and Penelope is kind of the regent, but she doesn't have total control. Her father-in-law, Odysseus' dad, Laertes, I think is also helping partly. Their counsel is pretty good because he was a good king, right? Like, he didn't have a lot of people betray him or anything like that when he was gone. So it's a little wacky. Penelope is very deft. She's very, very talented. She understands politics. She's at the same level as Odysseus. And the more you read the Odyssey, the more you realize Penelope's dope as hell, because she can string along these suitors in such a way that they can't outright try to overthrow her, because they will be the bad guys in violating Xenia. But she doesn't have enough political power, because she's a woman and not Odysseus, and Odysseus is gone, to outright kick them out. And they're violating Xenia because they've been staying in their place for years, and their little, castle-y thing, eating all of their food, killing all their sheep, eating goats and stuff, and they're eating all their food, and it's becoming a big tax on them, and Telemachus is going to inherit nothing soon.
Is Penelope described as a dime piece? Like, is she pretty?
Her looks aren't...
Or is that detail not given?
I don't remember if her looks are explicitly stated, because she's a relative of Helen.
Helen of Troy?
Yes.
Okay.
But she's definitely described as not as pretty as Helen, because nobody is as pretty as Helen.
Oh, well, that's true. So
it's hard because I'm mixing up in my head. Remember, there's no canon to Greek mythology, and so it depends on which author you're reading.
Yeah.
And then I've read all these modern takes on it, and so there's a lot of contradictions and stuff. But,
yeah, I understand.
But I can tell you the way that I see it. I see her as moderately pretty, but not at the level of that's why you would marry her. Not the sole reason.
Got you.
Like Helen is.
I got you.
But she is super clever, and she just works around all these people. At the same time all this is happening, so Telemachus, Penelope, they're kind of freaking out about this. Athena goes to Zeus and tells Zeus that Odysseus has suffered enough, and it's time for him to come home. And Zeus kind of says, listen, it's not me that's been doing this. It's been Poseidon.
Oh.
So we get a little bit of a taste of what's been happening these last 10 years. Apparently, Odysseus has pissed off Poseidon, which we'll come to later on in the story. But Zeus agrees. All right, we'll send Hermes down to Calypso, and we'll tell Calypso that she's got to send Odysseus on his way. But he's going to suffer a little bit more, but that's just because That's what he's got to do.
That's just part of the gig.
That's part of the game.
But that's it, though. He's off. He's out.
He will be, yes.
That's. But he doesn't know this yet.
No.
This is exciting.
It is. It's fun. So if we look at the chronological part of the story, where we are right now, in terms of the hero's journey, Odysseus is all the way at step 10 of 12 steps.
in book one.
In
page
page
1, we are at the step 10 of the hero's journey, the roadblock.
The road back.
Oh, I'm sorry, the road back.
Sometimes you call this the magic carpet ride. This is the end of what we call initiation. This would be where your hero has fought his supreme ordeal, conquered it, and hopefully received a boon from the gods, a gift, and is now ready to come back to their ordinary world, masters of both worlds, and then they're able to fix whatever problem is going on in their world.
Okay, so would you say in theory that the climax has kind of happened already?
Depending on how you measure
You know
the
what I'm
climax.
saying?
Yes. So
down here at 8 it says the ordeal.
So yeah, seizing the sword and the reward is the end of the ordeal, the supreme ordeal. And yes. But it's like Vonnegut says, it's a series of ups and downs.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah,
There
I
is
got you.
still, in the resolution of this story, there is a big climax. But I think it might be more for a different character than it is for Odysseus. I think Odysseus has already kind of mastered his...
Which is why you're saying that the whole family is the protagonist
Yes.
and not just Odysseus. Okay.
If we look at the narrative, we call this in medias res. So in medias res is a great, great technique that we often overlook, and it's called in the middle of. What it means is that instead of starting out with a boring exposition, you start out with just total action. So Lord of the Rings kind of does it in the movies when they start with Galadriel talking about the last alliance of men and elves, and they fight Sauron. It's really climactic because there's not any more action
Good point.
for like an hour and a half. And so that's
Really good
so
point.
it really hooks you in and then gives you that kind of faster heart rate to then push you through the exposition.
Star Wars
Absolutely.
also does that right after
Again,
the crawl, the credits.
Yep. We love an in medias res.
Interesting. I did not know that that's what that was called.
And a lot of times you take from your rising action and put it into your exposition, which is what this story is doing. So that's why narratively we're starting out almost at, we're starting out 20 years later of a 20-year story. So it's weird. And then we're going to do some flashbacks. If we're looking at Telemachus' heroic journey, he would be starting out at step 1, right at this part of the story, where he'd be starting out in the ordinary world.
Everything's chilling.
Because he is now becoming a man. He's just about 20 years old because his father had him right before he left.
About that time.
And so he is now considered a man. The suitors start calling him a man, and
Time to call.
it's time for
adventure.
Yep, it's time for him to begin his heroic journey, which means that he needs a call to adventure. Now, this is where the storytelling is really profound, and I think even though we don't like the Athena being overused, it's not used poorly. It's still expertly done, because Athena is going to disguise herself as Mentor, which is kind of why we call mentors.
Really?
It's crazy, right? And then Mentor is one of Odysseus and Laertes' friends, and so she goes like a person that they would recognize and tells him, you need to call a meeting. You need to, essentially go have this adventure. You need to go see Nestor, old man Nestor, who we love from the Iliad.
Oh, yeah.
And then you need to go see Menelaus. And then we're going to go get your dad.
Do we get to see Nestor again?
We get to see Nestor.
Oh my
Next episode, we get to see Nestor. And, spoiler, Nestor crushes it, like always.
Oh,
He never doesn't crush it.
Yeah, Nestor's the one, bro.
He is.
He hits different.
So that is essentially Telemachus' call to adventure, is from Athena. At the same time, Athena talking to Zeus, like we talked about, that actually triggers Odysseus's mechanism to return home, because that her talking to Zeus is what gets Hermes to go tell Calypso, you gotta let Odysseus go. So
Wow.
she, at the same moment in the story, she activates 2 new steps for the heroic journey for 2 different characters.
Makes sense.
It does.
Like in real world thinking.
Yeah,
Everyone is always on their different moments of their.
absolutely.
Yeah, that makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
it's cool.
And different things are going to trigger your journey and their journey. That's crazy to think about.
And so even though it is kind of a cop-out to use the gods as much as they do for these things, in terms of the storytelling, nothing is lost there. That is awesome storytelling. That you could do that, and if you weren't paying attention, you would just read through the story and not catch any of it. Right?
Yeah.
You could just read through it and it would just sound like a story.
Yeah.
But when you analyze, you're like, oh, this holds up to scrutiny? Dope.
I guess you know who does a pretty good job at this that I was talking to AI about yesterday is the order with which they release the Marvel movies as well. Because
Yeah, they
that's
are
all
good.
over the time as well.
Yeah, their showrunners are pretty good at. They were good. I think they've lost their sauce.
They're in a bit of a dark moment right now. But as far as this is concerned, they do meet each other in different ways as far as their heroes' journeys intersect.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
it's
would say
cool.
the Marvel run up until the end of Infinity War was very good about interweaving.
Yeah,
like very, very expertly.
That's why Doomsday is coming out
Yeah.
because they realized that was the only good formula.
So I just want to read you a little bit of Athena. Athena is, sometimes we mistake her as this like feminist icon, and she is that. But to the Greeks at the time, she's scary as hell.
You mean like pop culture?
Yes,
vibes?
I mean like modern tellings of her.
Would you be able to give me like a modern telling that your average human would be like, oh, okay, that's Athena?
I would just say, whenever I see her in like animations or even like the Zeus animation,
Yeah.
she's okay.
Okay.
But when you read her, even in that lady I really like who wrote Circe and Song of
that's
Achilles,
a very popular book right now.
and her take on Athena is that she's legitimately scary to look at because she's so blindingly strong and beautiful and like
Okay.
terrifying. So it's more like that. Like, oh no, you don't want any of this.
You know, Aaron and I talk about this. My wife and I talk about this. Where sometimes we like to like people watch.
Yeah.
And sometimes we'll check out people together, and sometimes we'll see people that are so women specifically that are so pretty that we feel like we would be dirty around them.
Sure.
Maybe that's Athena. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Like she's so pretty. You're like, I feel like I need to take a shower.
If she was also jacked with like a spear.
Well,
Remember-
yeah, I need to go to the gym and then take a shower.
Remember the last thing she does in the Iliad is she bitch slaps Ares so bad that he runs away.
That's right, dude. That's
That's
right.
her strength level. You know, I really think the reason why we do it, and maybe Marvel's the best example, because our DC, because of Wonder Woman. And Wonder Woman has like Athena as their god, as their patron, but she's not. Their patron would be Ares, because Athena would be with the Greeks.
Mm.
Achilles kills the leader of the Amazons, but I understand DC had to make some. I think we just oversimplify these gods.
For sure,
these
sure.
gods are complicated as hell.
Yeah.
And again, there's no canon. So she's talking to Telemachus as mentor, and she says about the suitors, then when all this business is over and done with, is the time to consider, in your mind and spirit, how you might slaughter these suitors in your halls, whether by guile or openly.
That escalated quickly, dude.
Dude, that is Athena right there.
Shit.
Later on, at the end of the story, Odysseus is like, you gonna help me slaughter these guys? She's like, yeah, I'm gonna help you slaughter these guys.
That's the best part. That's like licking the bowl of
Exactly.
frosting, dude.
Why do you think I ate my vegetables earlier?
Yeah. If you haven't listened to our Iliad series, you come to find out that these gods are pretty fucked up.
They're not good people. They gotta explain phenomena.
Monster ahead and a curse at our back. 6 guns screaming in the teeth of that crack. Lotus and Bloom trying to make us forget, but we carve our names in the mass. Stay set. We are battle buddies forever. From Troy's red walls to the wild, wild sea. Tie me down. I'll tear every tether. I will fight the storm if you sail with me. Yeah, we bleed, we break, but we never say never. Odysseus and the crew, battle buddies forever. Islands of gold, queens made of spells. I told them no, but I lied so well.
Okay. We go into book 2 from there. I guess the last thing on book 1 that kind of goes into book 2 is Telemachus listens to Mentor, because Telemachus is now a young man and he wants to get his house in order.
You always need a mentor as a young man.
You do. And he says, he called a meeting of the suitors. He says, tomorrow we're going to hold a meeting. And a couple of the suitors they're interesting people. And one of them was like, good for you, man. You're old enough to do this now. It's good that you're doing this, or else we were going to literally run your house for you.
Whoa.
So
that's an important shit for people to know.
This is Xenia stuff, you know?
Like it a
like
lot.
these are the
I like it a
rules.
lot.
You're following the rules. Good for you, kid. You know?
We will share now.
But now you're playing the big boys.
Yeah.
It's both. You know, it's a dual.
This road goes both ways,
It does.
friend. Man, that's such a life lesson.
Yes.
My goodness gracious. That's dope.
Okay. Telemachus, as he wakes up that next morning, right? You got to remember being 20. And
I don't.
I don't remember it at all. But let's pretend we do. And you have like the big day, right? Today's the day I'd fucking do it. I'm going to crush it today. And so we get, when dawn appeared, early risen and rosy fingered, Odysseus's dear son got up from the bed he slept in, put on his clothes, slung a sharp sword from one shoulder, tied on a pair of fine sandals under his sleek feet, and sallied forth from his chamber in appearance like a god.
Oh, he's feeling himself.
Dude, this is the first time. He's not dressed as a boy anymore.
Yeah, he's ready to go.
He's dressed as a man.
I thought that the slung a sharp sword was about to be a euphemism for woke up with a morning wood.
Sure.
Yeah, that's
It
what
could
I
have
thought.
been, but it's not.
Across his shoulder.
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, that'd be...
Too big. Godlike. It does say godlike.
It does say godlike.
Yeah, who knows? Readers, listeners, email us at battlebuddiespod@gmail.com.
But I feel like a god wouldn't want a penis that big. You can't do anything with it.
I've also seen the statues, and it's not flattering in that sense.
No. That was like a thing.
Very much so.
We've talked about that.
We have. We know what the answer is. It turns out it's because of long limbs will break. Like, that's why they didn't have arms. Because if you have a long limb on a statue and you carry it from one place to another, it'll break.
And the Pope, the reason why there's flowers over a lot of them is because that Pope that knocked off all the genitals.
Oh, word?
Yeah. That's like a thing, too.
That's a very Catholic sentence you just said.
Okay. In going back to our hero's journey and plot diagram stuff and what's happening in this part of the story, we don't really get more on Odysseus right here. So he's still waiting to go back, right? Calypso's going to let him go now. She's going to have to.
To leave Ithaca.
To leave for Ithaca, yeah.
To leave for Ithaca. But what island is he on?
It's called Ogygia.
Oh, okay.
It's Ogyggia, and I practiced it, but
I practiced it. It's okay, dude.
Ogygia, I think. I don't know. No one ever really says Calypso's Island.
That's my bad for putting you
no, it's your
in that
good
situation.
I practiced it for a reason. Okay. But the majority of book 2 is really just Telemachus, if not all of the book 2. Telemachus calls his meeting. So this would be him entering. He's heard his call to adventure. So now he goes towards step 3, which would be the refusal of the call or the acquisition of an amulet. There's a bunch of different ways you can use and interpret this scene. Basically, your hero can't go on their journey right away. There has to be something to give you stakes. And when I have worked with kids on writing stories, they skip this scene. But this, to me, is what makes a story compelling versus flat. And I feel like Michael Bay misses this kind of stuff. Like, like if you do an hour 30 action movie, you miss this part because you don't build it enough. Not to say Michael Bay always misses it. I feel like sometimes he does, but a lot of times it just, like, I'm thinking Transformers 1, his best one of the Transformers series. It jumps so fast into just fun action that there's no stakes.
It does.
For Sam Witwicky. He's just there for it.
The stakes are like his dad didn't buy him a car, or
that's what I mean. Like, there's no stakes for him. None. He doesn't refuse the call because he's like, I would love to get the hell out of here.
I mean, I hate to do this, but I'll go back to Star Wars for a second.
You were going to always have to. Most of my hero journey slides are always Star Wars.
So we're thinking, when you think about it, right? Luke in A New Hope is like thinking about leaving, and then his uncle, they die, right?
So this is the classic way you tell the story, because George Lucas loved the hero's journey. It wouldn't make sense for Luke to refuse the call to adventure, because he's an adventurer. He wants to be an adventurer like his friend Biggs. And so he can't, so his aunt and uncle do it for him. And then, in order for it to still happen, you kill them dramatically.
Yeah, they
And
did.
so now the stakes are raised. Death is on the line.
Right.
And
He has to like avenge his family.
right. And
Yeah.
he has nowhere to return to. He
Correct.
can't
He doesn't
return
have a
home.
home.
The stakes are raised.
Yes.
Tension is raised. And that
Yes.
makes stories compelling.
It was, yeah. it is.
Absolutely.
And that's a good point. That like in Transformers is like in rough.
And I like the first Transformers. I think that's fun as hell.
For sure.
But for like Optimus and them, there's stakes. But for Sam, I just never felt like he was always going to go with them. He was never going to not go, or somebody wasn't going to let him go. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am. For this one, Telemachus has listened to Mentor, right? We're trying to see Telemachus as a young man who's becoming a hero, so it wouldn't make sense for him to not listen to Mentor and to not call the meeting. So instead, we have the suitors raise the stakes for us. And he says to the suitors, get the fuck out of here. And he just tells them, like, I need you guys gone. You guys are eating all my food, drinking all my wine. You're ruining all my stuff. I'm going to have nothing to inherit. And they say to him, no. Because your mom is a widow. And this is where it's wacky, because she's not technically a widow. But how many years in both our society and in ancient society can a woman of status go before you actually consider her a widow? Let's say it doesn't really work now, because hopefully that's not how things work anymore. But for these old, kingships in ruling classes, and you needed a man for their quote unquote society to function, how long until you have to say he's gone? How many years?
Yeah. So Kevin is saying this is the classic thing of they're like 5 years into their widowship. And I'm like, bro, that was 5 years ago. Like, get over it.
Because she keeps saying he's not dead. You don't know he's dead. No one's seen him. And they're like, but he was on the open water.
This is, I gotta say, this is like a trope now in movies.
Absolutely.
Of like, oh, he's still alive. They're still out there.
They're still out
So this
there.
is what's going on right now.
Yes, this is kind of the most famous story
I
of this.
wish I had a good, perfect example of that, but it's used so often.
I was thinking of Castaway.
Sure,
She lets him go real quick.
She does. She finds that dentist, Spalding, Dr. Spalding.
Good pull right there.
Thank you.
That was really nice. All right. So they say no. And the reason why they say no, they're not going to go, is that Penelope, they are coming to realize over the last 3 years at least, if not more, has been playing them. And they are a little butthurt about it. Because remember, Penelope is the wife of Odysseus. And you can only be the wife of Odysseus if you're at or right at Odysseus' level. And we get to one of the most famous stories that you will see repeated versions of this throughout all the time, ever since this story appeared. And the story is, she needs to accept one of them as her suitor. And she knows that. She knows she can't placate them forever. So she says, all right, but my father-in-law, Laertes, he's old as hell. And he might die soon. And it would look really bad of me to not have weaved him a death shroud. A good one worthy of him. Because he's such a good guy. He's the father of Odysseus. So I need to weave him a death shroud. And when I finish that, because this is so important, then I will pick a suitor. And everybody's like, you know what? That technically follows all the rules of Xenia and, family dynamics. So yeah. So she weaves these beautiful things every night or every day while they can all watch her. And then at night, she goes through and just undoes them all.
So it never finishes.
It never finishes. And she keeps that going for years. And they just think she's making the most intricate thing in the world.
Now, given the time that this story is being disseminated throughout the public, right, the commons folk, when they hear that a character is this clever and also female, how does that translate? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think for the Greeks, it's interesting. Penelope gets a pass in a way that other characters don't always get a pass.
Okay.
Which is the interesting point.
I understand.
Because Penelope doesn't get any consequences. She's rewarded for this. Because Odysseus, at the end, when they are reunited, he's like, that's why you're my wife. Because you knew to do that. You know, I didn't have to tell you to do that. You already knew to do that.
I guess they do also kind of portray her as like being, what's a PC word I could use here? Like she's pretty intense, bro.
Yeah.
Right? So like,
But she plays the game because they complain she keeps seducing us and then not committing to us. She just plays them all.
she's blue balling them.
She is.
She's blue balling them.
In a very good manner because she was worried about Telemachus. So that's what she says a couple times is, even if I picked a suitor, if I felt like that was the thing I had to do, they're not going to be happy that Telemachus is growing up, about to take over ownership, because either he loses his inheritance because they take it, or they kill him because they're afraid he's going to try to take it.
Right.
And so she is just playing the game better than them. She's playing the true Game of Thrones, and they're all playing like idiots.
Okay.
Which
so
is
they're
dope.
going to maintain their secession.
Yes. And Telemachus essentially says, well, you guys are all dicks. I'm gonna go get my dad, kind of thing. And they see two eagles fighting in the air. It's a common thing that you see in these stories.
Is a sign from the gods.
Sign from the gods.
Of course.
And one guy reads it correctly. He's like, huh. Yeah, that means Odysseus is alive and that we're going to get punished for what we're doing. And all of the other suitors are like, fuck you, no way, no way. So everybody just ignores him, which is great because of course he's ignored. And obviously that guy was right. Odysseus is coming home soon and is not going to be very happy. This might be in this book or in the next one. Essentially, there's going to be a plot. So as they learn that Telemachus is going to go try to find Nestor and then Menelaus to find out news about his dad, that they're going to try to ambush and kill him when he comes back. So there's schemes within schemes.
Mm-hmm.
But they are violating Xenia now because you can't kill him.
You're not sharing the path, dude.
They were following the rules and they were abusing the rules, eating all the food, drinking all the wine. But now Telemachus has asserted himself, and even though they're still eating the food, they can't do harm to him because that would be violating the rules. So they'll be punished for that.
The rules of these stories, correct me if I'm wrong,
right,
in the Xenia world is if you act like a dick, you're going to be, there's consequences.
There are consequences, yeah.
Is that not kind of like karma?
It is. It's just, you can't say karma because that's a different
I know.
time and place.
Right. But that is kind of the same vibe, right?
It is. I think of it, I actually see it more like a New Testament. Like if the New Testament, Old Testament, how the Old Testament, there wasn't always like a rhyme or reason for the divine punishments that some people got. Like Job, right? Didn't Job get like just abused?
Oh, it's fucked up. He gets everything taken away from him.
And so it's like that, but because of the rules.
What are the rules?
So if Job broke the rules, then that's what he would get for Xenia.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but it's divine. Like you're gonna get divine punished.
Yeah.
Odysseus is divinely punished for a while. That's what makes the story take so long.
Yeah, it's like divinity is like the government, bro. There's processes on top of processes. It's not just gonna happen overnight, bro. We're gods.
It's a good comparison because a lot of times it doesn't make any sense.
Much like the government.
Much like the government. Except for Xenia. Like Xenia is the one more or less consistent thing. It's not always consistent, but it's more or less consistent.
Yeah, Xenia is the Second Amendment.
Yes. Sure.
Just
that really ironclad thing.
That's the one unifier, bro.
Yeah.
Jokes,
good.
folks. Just jokes.
All right. And that's basically where we'll end today. One last note on the timeline stuff. We'll get to it when we meet Menelaus. But Peter Green spends a lot of time in his early essays explaining why it's 20 years, because there's lots of questions why it's 20 years.
Wait, why? Why specifically is there lots of questions that it's 20 years? Like, just mean like, why the fuck does this story have to take that much
Yeah, why
time?
does it need 10 more years after the Iliad? For
Like,
him
what
to
does that
come
do for the
home?
story?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, why take that long? And one main reason is you need enough time for Telemachus to grow up. But then the other reason, and it's so convoluted, and you could honestly just skip it, and I've debated skipping it, but we won't, because if you study this at all, it comes up, which is about Agamemnon being murdered by his wife. And there's timeline issues with it. So as we learn about that, they will explain.
Meaning like a plot hole?
Potentially that's covered up because of the timelines.
Got it.
It
like some
requires
retcon shit?
it requires a certain number of years for it to work, and so that's why they leave certain years.
I see.
Because why couldn't you do this when he's 16 is kind of like the question, right? Why can't 16 be the age that he's an adult? Which it could have, except for that you need enough time for these other events that are happening in the background to make sense.
I'm just wondering how these ancient storytellers were able to map this out.
That's what I'm saying.
How do you keep track of this if this is an oral tradition?
That's what I'm saying.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And the other reason why we like the narrative structure too as our overarching way to go through this is the Iliad we're looking at, even though we were covering all of the events of the Trojan War, the Iliad itself is really just like that couple days right before Troy actually fell. And that was fascinating because it was just a slice of life almost. It was like a very brief
little package,
moment.
dude.
And that's how this is. This is really just a couple days between when Telemachus is old enough to have to take on the suitors and Odysseus coming home. And it's just that little moment. Everything else that we're going to cover all of the other years, the other 10 years, what he's been doing, how did the Trojan War actually end? All of that is covered in flashbacks and storytelling. But really, the story is just that little moment. And Peter Green encourages us not to forget that, because that gives a framework for your story. It gives it an emotional framework for it, that this is something that needs to be resolved. And because of that, you have a story. So Achilles being mad and not wanting to fight is the Iliad. In this one, Telemachus having to control these suitors or else they're going to take over his inheritance, and Odysseus needs to come home. And if you don't have that, then you don't have the story. That makes it fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I adore it. I'm super glad we're here, dude.
I am too.
I do wonder, do you think that Christopher Nolan is going to use Poseidon and shit like that in his movies, or is that going to be more inferred?
That has been my...
You know what I'm saying?
Well, because our only source is Troy. And I loved the movie Troy with Brad Pitt.
You do like that movie.
I do. Growing up, watching a quick guy stab the really big guy early on, you're like, unceremoniously? Like, what? What? Just as a kid, and you're like, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know. So that was so cool to me. But them not using any of the gods was rough in retrospect now. Although I've kind of come full circle in that the gods don't play a huge part of the human characters. They're in their heads, and there's the one moment where Athena actually tells Achilles to put his sword away. But other than that, it's mainly the gods fighting the gods. And yes, they do whisk away guys and stuff like that. But you could say that they survived the battle. You could explain that shit away.
It's gonna be hard to pull off and not make it cheesy.
Well, I don't know how
specifically gods. I mean,
well, I don't know how because there's monsters, there's Cyclops,
right? Well, the Cyclops is in there. They showed the Cyclops in the preview. He's in there. Monsters are in the Christopher Nolan movie. And that's why I'm asking if there's gods.
There has to be gods then.
That's kind of cool.
That is cool.
But
no, you don't eat people. Have you watched the old
the
version
old
of
one?
the Odyssey? Yeah.
Are you talking about the Hallmark one?
I don't know if it's a Hallmark one. It won 2 Emmys. I checked that out.
So if that's the Hallmark one, me and Alan, friend of the pod, fucking loved watching that in school, because there's a part where this dude throws a chair at Odysseus when he's hella old at one point, right? Odysseus becomes hella old. Right? Doesn't he get
Yeah.
right? He appears as old, and they throw a chair, and they miss the person they were aiming for, and it hits Odysseus as a hella old man, and the chair like shatters to pieces. And whoever filmed it, dude, it was fucking hilarious. It wasn't intended to be hilarious, but me and Alan thought it was hilarious because we have a gallows humor, I suppose. But
because it says that at the end when he is, Athena dresses him as an old man, like a beggar,
okay,
who then beats the fuck out of a guy.
so like Athena has to be in this movie, correct?
Athena has to be in the movie,
and she's a god, correct?
Yes.
So then it's happening.
Yeah. You can't, like I said, you can't tell the story of even if you were just doing Telemachus's heroic journey, you can't do it without Athena, unless you just say it's Mentor doing it. But then even still, because he has to be able to like talk to characters that he can't know he's talking to. There's like all these rules and shit.
Okay, closing question. Who is Athena in the "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" then version of the Odyssey? Or any question like Odysseus.
Odysseus is split. Well, Odysseus is what's his face? What's his putts? George Clooney.
Okay, that's Odysseus.
Yes, but I don't think they have an
I guess
Athena.
that makes sense. They leave jail, right?
Yep.
But this is also weird because I'm trying to be chronological about it, and that's where things get messy, right?
And they tell the story more chronologically than they do set up a retelling of the narrative of the Odyssey.
I know that John Goodman is the Cyclops.
Yes. He's multiple characters.
Oh, they do that?
Yeah.
They combine. Interesting.
Because the Cyclops is a very small part, although we're going to cover it because I love the language in the Cyclops part. He bashes their brains in like puppies. Like, who bashes puppies? Really rough.
Well, I'm excited for this. I'm going to take your advice and I'm going to go on Spotify and listen to one of the audiobooks.
Yeah,
I hope our listeners do the same, and I hope this starts some fun conversations outside of the airwaves.
The real airwaves.
The internet waves.
There we go.
Type us words with your keyboards on your phones. Is that a good way to say that?
That's really good. That's really good.
Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate the hell out of you guys for listening, dude. We've been having a lot of listeners lately. It's been...
That's crazy.
Dude, yeah, it's been really awesome. You are not going ignored. This doesn't exist without listeners, so we appreciate you. And until next time, so it goes.